you haven't already seen it from the second channel, yes, I am wearing a Hawaiian shirt. You're just gonna have to deal with it. The Golden State Warriors recently got absolutely destroyed by the Dallas Mavericks, losing by 30 and having had a 30-point deficit for pretty much the entire game. And then yesterday they lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves, who, while the Timberwolves have been streaking and winning a lot lately, you still don't want to lose that game, especially in a tight Western Conference playoff race. And this is after getting quite a bit of momentum with Steph Curry having the insane April that he did. Or I guess is still happening because April's not over yet. And as that momentum has slowed down, their playoff hopes have gotten worse and worse, and it's really looking like they're going to have to win a play-in tournament rather than just having a confident seeding. And because of this, I figured now was a good time to once more talk about the problems with the Golden State Warriors. I say once more because I actually did this video 4 months ago, but a lot of things have changed and I am much less nice about their situation than I was back then. Really, also, that video was more focusing on why it's not Curry's fault, and I think anyone with any sense knows that it's not Curry's fault at this point. The thumbnail of this video says, "Klay cannot fix this," and that's a growing sentiment within Warriors Twitter. Klay Thompson, as good as he is, his addition is not going to make this team go from bad to contender, not that alone. So the Warriors have many problems of which Klay Thompson cannot fix alone, and they're going to need to address those problems. So let's talk about them. Before I continue on with this video, about half of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed, so if you fall into that 50%, then subscribe. Also drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. So in the last video I did on the Warriors, I didn't put too much focus on the coaching. That was a thing that I thought was relatively minor that would figure itself out, but holy shit, that did not end up being the case. Coaching has been a big problem for the Warriors this year, and that's weird because Steve Kerr has a championship pedigree and was generally considered to be one of the better coaches in the league before this season. So let's talk about all those issues with Steve Kerr. First of all, his rotations are very suspect. The number one thing that stands out is that Steph Curry only ever plays half of the fourth quarter while playing the entirety of the third quarter, which makes some sense because regardless, you're filling a similar amount of time, but you'd much rather him play half of the third and the total of the fourth, so that you're getting more of Steph Curry to close the game, that rather than starting off the fourth quarter with 5-6 minutes where you could potentially put your team in a hole. When things are not working, Steve Kerr rarely adjusts. In fact, I don't know that I've ever seen him make an obvious adjustment in any game that I've watched of the Warriors this year, which is quite a bit because I'm really interested in this team, and also, you see the Steph jersey, I enjoy watching the guy play. But things like Kelly Oubre constantly running into the paint with no plan. He does not pull him out of the game. He does not tell him to do things differently. You just see the same cycles repeat over and over. You're not seeing new things often. That's also not just the fact that he doesn't adjust, but also he's not punishing players for doing really stupid shit. When a guy does stupid shit like Kelly Oubre can do for multiple possessions, or even Andrew Wiggins sometimes, the coach is supposed to get on their ass. It doesn't really seem like Steve Kerr does that. This is probably the biggest one. He continues to play Steph Curry as though the Warriors are a stacked team like they were in the past, i.e., they're consistently running him off ball while Andrew Wiggins and Kelly Oubre and even sometimes, for the love of God, Kent fucking Bazemore run isolations. There are multiple possessions the Warriors have with Steph on the court where he doesn't touch the ball. And that made sense when you had Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson, or a better version of Draymond Green who was actually able to hit threes, and wings who could actually shoot. But They don't have that right now, and that means that you should start running Steph more like a more ball-dominant, completely controlling, heliocentric. That's a big word that I learned from fucking what's-his-name, Ben Taylor. He needs to be the #1 guy who is constantly with the ball, like Luka is, like Trey is, like maybe a little bit Damian Lillard is, a little bit like James Harden. Still do off-ball stuff with Steph when you can, because that's a very important part of his game, but it should not be a 50-50 split like it has been when the team was way more talented than it is, because now instead of Clay, KD, or Draymond, a better version of Draymond, having the ball, when it's not Steph, it's a lesser version of Draymond, or Andrew Wiggins, Kelly Oubre, Kent Bazemore, Brad Wanamaker in the past. I don't think I need to be, it makes sense. That's a stupid idea. And one thing that maybe is not the biggest thing, but the thing that pisses me off the most, the Warriors don't run any fucking pick and roll, despite the fact that they have one of the best pick and roll duos in the league, which is Steph and Draymond Green. The Golden State Warriors are the 4th lowest pick and roll usage team in the league, while being the 5th best at it in the league. So, they're really good at it. And then instead of doing that, they opt for Kelly Oubre isolation plays. Come on, man. Steph and Draymond's pick and roll is so fantastic because with Draymond as the roll man, while he's not the greatest finisher in the world, he can finesse his way to the basket, but more importantly, his playmaking out of the pick and roll is very impactful. He can find guys open on the perimeter. Now, with the shooting being worse than it was in the past, it's not as impactful as it could be, but being that the other option is Kent Bazemore taking a fadeaway from the elbow, I think you take that option. So should the Warriors fire Steve Kerr? I don't know. I don't have a clear answer to that, because the problem when you say they should fire him is like, well, who replaces him? Don't know the better option really, so what's the replacement? You're kind of rolling the dice with that one. All I know for sure is that whether it is through a hire or Steve Kerr changing, change needs to happen in that regard. Let's move past Steve Kerr. This team does not have a fucking ounce of depth. Point blank, none of it. There's no depth to this team. There is a bunch of G League players on this team getting big minutes constantly. The fact that Brad Wanamaker was like a 20-minute per game guy on this team says all you need to fucking know. Andrew Wiggins is pretty good. Kelly Oubre is very inconsistent, but is generally pretty solid. Draymond is good. And then Steph is good. Kevon Looney is a passable backup center. James Wiseman is a rookie, and he has a lot of ups and downs, but in general, I'd say he's okay. And then after that, it gets really damn rough. Kent Bazemore, if he didn't shoot the ball as much as he did and didn't try to do more than he should, would be pretty damn solid in the rotation, but he unfortunately does everything I just said. And after that, I mean, Juan Toscano-Anderson is decent, Jordan Poole has his moments, but in general, this team is lacking in consistent and reliable role players that can come off of the bench and take pressure off of Steph. And then ironically, a big one is shooting. In the Mavericks game, the reason why they were able to take such a commanding lead is because they were blitzing Steph Curry, doubling him at the half-court line, and he was finding open shooters on the perimeter, and they consistently bricked those shots. Because Kelly Oubre this year, 31% from 3, not good. Andrew Wiggins is hitting his threes this year, but he can still have consistency issues. We know who Draymond Green is as a shooter. Didn't used to be, but he's not a good shooter now. And then usually with some other center on the court, whether it be Wiseman or Looney, obviously those guys aren't shooting. So it's Steph and then one decent, pretty good shooter, Wiggins, and then nothing else. That's an issue. I mentioned Wiseman a bit here. This is a controversial opinion, one I've expressed a couple of times now. I absolutely think the Warriors should trade James Wiseman. My good friend Mojo99 made a video about this, so if you want to look in more depth as to why that is, you can go watch that video. But James Wiseman, while I do believe he has quite a bit of upside, I don't think he really fits what the Warriors need, but more importantly, his value as a trade asset to this team is far more significant than as just what he is. I understand he has that potential, but right now, Steph Curry is like, what, 33 years old? Klay Thompson's not far behind him, neither is Draymond Green. These guys are getting older, but that doesn't mean they don't have a championship window. And look, I know that once they're gone, it would suck to not have a talent of James Wiseman to what he could be, but I'd much rather build the pieces around what I have right now to win a championship right now, one more at least, than have the backup for when Steph retires. As far as I'm concerned, when you have Steph Curry in his prime, you do everything you can do to win with him right now. Once he's gone, then you worry about it. You don't worry about the future right now. I don't know what Wiseman's actual trade value is, but I'm 95% sure that what you can get out of him from more veteran type players and maybe even a star player, depending on who becomes available in the offseason, it's definitely plausible to me that you get way more out of Wiseman than what Wiseman can actually provide for you right now. Maybe not in the future, but as of right now, absolutely. With Steph having the championship window that he does, I'm just doing everything possible to make sure he gets another one. Sorry for Wiseman's potential on Golden State. So, just going down the checklist, what the Warriors need to do. Fix the coaching situation, whether that means firing Steve Kerr or him just doing better. Either way, they need to be better in that regard. They need to address depth. If you think back to the older Warriors pre-Kevin Durant coming there, that was a very deep team, and that was one of their biggest attributes. And if you're trying to build a team once more around Steph, Clay, and Draymond, you're going to want to put depth around them once more. And then third, I would turn Wiseman as well as their draft assets into whatever they can to really put a great team around Steph and get as much depth or the star power that they can. Because Wiseman, as well as that Minnesota pick that they have, which may or may not convey, we don't know, I don't remember what the protection on is exactly, and then their own first round picks for the future, you could get something very nice out of all of those assets, put that next to Steph, and then suddenly you're looking at a championship once more. The thing is, when I did this video on the Celtics, the problems with the team were a little bit more complicated. With the Warriors, all of these problems are pretty damn glaring. The depth, the shooting, the coaching, everything. All the stuff is obvious. It's just about the Warriors and Bob Myers going into this offseason and making sure that they address all of these problems. If they do it, you can get maybe even 5 more really good years out of Steph. The way that he plays, I would not be shocked if he was still an all-star at 38. So make it happen. I also really hope Bob Myers is the GM of the Warriors, because I'm like 80% sure he is, and I just said that with some serious confidence, but I guess we'll find out. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video. That is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for NBA content like this, for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.